Hey, what's going on? I'm Whit. Welcome to the channel, and today a full review of the Royalguard 200, the debut piece from the Imperial Watch Company. And this was a surprise when this watch came out, how popular it was that there was not a restock. Well, some good news in that department. The next release from Imperial is the Royalguard 200 limited edition. 3 new colors, and they brought back the OG blue bezel, but have added a date complication. Now, all of these are limited in quantities, and I'll go over that towards the end of the video. But first, let's cover the review of this one, the original Royalguard 200. Will you look at this watch? I mean, this has got the vintage skin diver vibe that watch wet dreams are made of. I mean, how beautiful is that dial? Let me give you all the specs and details before I give you my likes and dislikes. So I actually measured 37 millimeters, the case diameter, just underneath the bezel. And if you measure the bezel knurling itself, I get 38 millimeters diameter. It's a 47 millimeter lug to lug. You've got 20 millimeter lug width, and the bracelet tapers to 16 millimeters at the clasp. The Royalguard 200 is 14 millimeters thick from the top of the dome sapphire crystal to the bottom of the case back. And it weighs 138 grams, sized for my 8-inch wrist. Yeah, and this dome sapphire crystal is a vintage dome. You see you got that acrylic look, but you got the scratch resistance of sapphire. Beautiful application of anti-reflective coating as well. The dial is midnight black with gilt printing, and you've got Swiss vintage loom on all the markers and handset, and that is a custom pointer handset. This is a faded blue-gray aluminum bezel insert, and a 90-click unidirectional bezel. The oversized 7.5 millimeter crown is signed with the Imperial Crown logo. It is screw down, and you've got a screw down case back as well, with 200 meters of water resistance. This watch is powered by the Seiko NH35A automatic movement, 21,600 vibrations per hour, hacking and hand winding. It's got a stated accuracy of -20 to +40 seconds per day. I clocked this one over 9 days, hand timed it, and it came in at -5.2 seconds per day. All right, let me give you my likes and dislikes now. We'll start with the negatives because there's really only one. We just talked about it. So the NH35 movement has a date complication, and as you see, this dial does not have a date. So I think a couple of things about this movement. One, it would have been better to use a no-date movement, such as the NH38, which would be comparable to this NH35. And then two, the price point of this watch is right on the edge of supporting the more budget-friendly NH35. But let me spin that to a positive. Because I started thinking, now, is it more economical to replace an NH35 down the road rather than service, in a higher grade movement? And is an NH35 likely more readily available in the future than an NH38? So there's always something to consider, right? But all in all, at the end of the day, would have rather seen an NH38 in this. But that's definitely overpowered by everything else this watch has to offer. And let me start my positives with the dial. The dial. I mean, jet black, gilt print, gilt handset, Swiss vintage loom, great legibility. The overlay of the minute and second hands cresting over those indices, and the way the light reflects off the handset like that. Oh, when you look down and see that during the day, it's a beautiful thing. And I love this oversized crown, especially on a smaller watch like this. It doesn't look overpowering. I think it gives it a nice, rugged look, and definitely makes it more easy to manipulate winding and time setting. And speaking of that smaller case, so 38 millimeters, this thing feels right at home on my 8-inch wrist, and I normally don't wear anything under 40. And I could easily get away with this. I wouldn't say that it wears large for a 38 millimeter, but just the design of the lugs and the way the bracelet appears to be wider because it tapers down here at the end. I think it just sits on my wrist well, and man, it was fun to wear a small watch. I mean, I normally can't get away with that. But that's, just an issue for large wrist people. Tons and tons of people have been begging for nice under 40 millimeter divers. So Imperial has come through with this 37 millimeter case, actually, but again, with that bezel being 38 millimeters, really wears like a 38. The case finishing is beautiful. You see that nice brushwork. You got that slight chamfer right there on the edge of the mid case. Just everything looks nice and in order. The brushing on the bracelet looks great, and that high polish on the end of the links just has a nice feel to it, and gives it a little splash of bling without being overpowering. And this is one of those where I think the bracelet, and I'm a bracelet guy, the bracelet is a perfect match for the watch head. I put this on a couple other straps, but came right back around to this bracelet because it looks so good. And this crystal, oh man, you got all the vintage feels, and it just amplifies the intensity of this beautiful dial. This crystal is so clear, and like I said, it just makes that jet black pop. It makes the gilt handset and dial pop. Just bravo to this crystal. So the lume is not over the top crazy on this watch, but it gets the job done. It is excellent application of lume. Again, with this Swiss vintage lume, you got that nice cream color, during daylight hours, and emits green luminescence at night. And there were plenty of times where I, was driving and then would go under underpass or something like that, and that day lume just pops right out at you. Same thing entering the house from into a dark room from outside, and just normal wearing of the watch gave it plenty of charge to last all night for full legibility. Okay, so the good news and the bad news. The bad news is this watch is sold out. It just sold out almost immediately after it was released, and there never was a restock. But the good news, like I mentioned in the opening of the video, the next release is for the Royalguard 200 limited edition. This adds 3 new colors, and they've brought back the OG blue bezel, which you've seen featured in this video, but it's added a date complication. Now, the ghost green is like a faded matte green bezel insert, limited to 50 pieces. There's going to be 35 of the no date, 15 of the date version. The tropical is a faded red with hints of like sun-bleached burgundy and copper colors, 50 pieces of that as well, 35 no date, 15 date version. Then there's the classic black. This is the most similar to the original watch as featured in this video. It's kind of a faded black. It's got tones of like matte gray, and it's much more gray than the original blue gray of the Royalguard 200. So there's going to be 70 pieces of that, 25 in the date version, 45 in the no date version. And then you've got a bonus. The OG blue with date is limited to 30 pieces total, and that is going to have a date complication in that watch. Now, with all of these, the date versions, they're using a custom red and black roulette date wheel with hand-drawn numerals, features the flat 3 and the open 6 and 9 found in many vintage skin divers. So they're all going to be $3.99 when they're released, plus free shipping to the USA. But that's a limited time deal, and obviously with the limited number of quantity, it's going to go fast. So check out the link down below for Imperial Watch Company and jump on it when they come available. But what do you think of the Royalguard 200 as featured in this video? Again, you're going to get a chance to get basically a similar watch with these new limited edition pieces, so that's why I thought I'd put out the review. Since this version is no longer available, there at least is an identical version just with different color components coming out. So let me know what you think. Are you up for grabbing one of the new ones? Love to hear your thoughts. Put a comment down below and like this video if you enjoyed it. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you along for the ride. I'll catch you in the next one. I'm Whit, with so many watches, so little time and money.